Now, if you could add one person, doesn't have to be a president, to Mount Rushmore, who would it be and why?
Okay, but in line with the like leaders, we could add Princess Leia in there. Like that would be.
Yeah. I don't think there'd be a lot of backlash for that one. I think more people would be on board with that.
I think we could get the whole world to unite on this.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of A-Listers. My guest today is a talented singer, songwriter, and is currently one of the competitors on Fox's Lego Masters Season 2. Welcome to the show, Natalie Cleveland.
Hey, thanks for having me.
To talk to me a little about Lego Masters, how did that casting process work, and what made you decide to do it?
Okay, so that was kind of like a whirlwind, definitely a surprise to me that we actually got on the show. My friend Michelle, who's my teammate, we've been longtime friends for 5-6 years, and we've always done DIY projects together. Like we've built furniture and done, room designs, redos, like that type of stuff. And she has gotten super into Lego and called me and was like, hey, did you see season 1 of Lego Masters? Like, yeah. And she's like, would you want to apply to season 2 and maybe be my teammate? And I said, sure, I don't think we'll get a call, but why the heck not? And so she, submitted us as a team, and, you send like photos, you fill out some questionnaires and all of that stuff. And I thought, okay, well, guess we'll never see any of that amount to anything, but sure, that was fun. And then to our surprise, a couple months later, she got a phone call from casting saying, hey, can you guys, hop online and interview with us? And I was actually in the middle of a cross-country move and packing up a house and had boxes everywhere. I'm like, I can find a room that looks like it's not tore up with boxes stacked up. Right. Like, yeah, let's figure it out. So
do you think this, do you feel like this season from oh, it's all good. The pets are allowed on the show.
Okay, that's the bird.
Do you feel this season, from what we've seen so far, has had harder challenges than the first season, or about the same in your opinion?
Oh gosh, I feel like all of them are hard. Like every week when they say what we're doing, I'm like, we have to do what? Like, right. And I felt that way watching last season too, where I'm like, they have to build what? Like, I don't know what I would do if that were me. So I don't know. I think the dread that I felt at the beginning of each challenge, I'm sure the contestants last season felt. I don't know. Would I say that they're harder? I know a lot of the other contestants were like, I think these are way harder, because we definitely did have a lot of builds, or have had a lot of builds so far this season, where they have to perform in some way. They have to withstand an earthquake machine. You have to wear it down a runway and take your hands off for 5 seconds. It has to blow up in a way that looks good on camera. And so, a lot of this stuff none of us have done before. None of us are explosive.
How do you practice for it? Right. Yeah.
I think this will look cool blowing up in slow-mo. All the challenges have been super hard, because I'm kind of a newbie at all of this.
I would never have guessed, honestly.
Well, like, I've done a lot of the sets with my kids. I have 3 little girls, and so we've done, sets and stuff over the years. And like, we'll build stuff just for fun, being silly. Like, I have no original creations that you would be super impressed with that would be like in the lobby of Nike. Like, a lot of the other contestants have been commissioned to build things for companies and conventions and just have amazing portfolios.
Immediately when this season started, I was drawn to watching and cheering for you because of your quick-witted responses. Have there been any moments that didn't air that you were like, oh, I was wishing that was going to make it, or anything like that?
I feel like there's probably been some of those for each episode, because, they film like
12 hours
of content, and then you whittle that down to, a short 50-minute, 45-minute episode. One thing that comes to mind was the windmill challenge, when it had to withstand 60 miles per hour. Will, during one of his check-ins, was joking with me, just how hard it is to co-host, and that we should just swap spots. So I was like, okay. And so in that, he's pretending to be me, I'm pretending to be him. I'm doing my best, like, low Batman voice impression. And some of the things that he was like spitballing during that was like hilarious, but probably not on brand with like Fox family friendly Lego Masters. So like, we were all cracking up laughing. And I'm like, yeah, there's no way they're using that take or that one or that one. But one of the ones that was super funny that didn't make the cut, when he was in there pretending he's like, ugh, or he was like, ugh, we have to build something to withstand the wind. I told you this. Like, everybody in here, I hate them. And I told Maria that I liked her build, but I did not. Like, and you just started going, and we were just cracking up because there's like no bad blood between anybody. Like everybody is just super friendly. Like we all still, you know, are in a group chat and message every day. Like everybody's super friendly. So we're all just cracking up at.
Now, I know me and you briefly talked about this offline, but when you guys are doing these 12+ hour builds, do they ever stop the clock for breaks to eat, or are they just 12 hours, good luck?
I mean, sometimes there would be longer spans than others, depending on like what time during the day we started filming. But like, if it's a 12-hour challenge, it really is 12 hours to the dot that you get to work. And it's like monitored by a gaming commission, and it is like serious time tracking business. We did get like bathroom breaks, but the clock was still going. Like if you had to use the bathroom, like you're going to lose that 3 minutes or 5 minutes, like however long it takes you, like you're going to lose that time. So, but we did get like lunch and dinner breaks depending on when we were filming. You know, we had all those things that you would kind of expect if you were like working a jobby job, and you would get a break every, you know, 4 hours or lunch breaks, whatever. So like we would get to break for lunch, but it was pretty fast. Like it's not like there was a lot of time to hang out and chat. It's like, okay, we got 30 minutes to eat and use the bathroom and get back in there, and you're running across the lot. And
when you guys shot the show, was it like, hey, here's a weekend, we're shooting an episode, or was it like a consistent few months?
Well, I only know what it was like for us filming during COVID. So it may be different for other shows and, you know, non-COVID world. But for us, we were very much like sequestered to a bubble, like kind of what I saw like, you know, the NBA do, where it's like, this is your hotel. You can go, you know, to this thing. Like we could go to the lot, like when we were shuttled there, and you can go back to the hotel, and like, that is it. So we had to quarantine like a week before. You couldn't like hang out with other contestants, like, or other people from the hotel. Like you could hang out with your teammate in your free time. But honestly, like the hours were so long in our free time. It was like sometimes we have 4-hour turnarounds to like sleep and get back. So it's like the 4 hours, love you, but I'm going to bed. Like not gonna see anybody. So.
Right. So I personally really enjoy you and your partner's style of building. I'm a very big sucker for details on builds. More than just, this is a huge structure. Has there been difficult to sacrifice that style sometimes just to make a larger or? For
sure. Yeah. And I think like a lot of us struggled with detail versus size a lot of the time. You know, because you got to think about like you're building for TV, and nobody's going to be like up close in on seeing all of the details. If you're thinking through, like I've done a lot of, like in my professional, I've done a lot of like video editing and graphics and stuff. And so I'm kind of used to saying, okay, they're probably going to get 2 seconds with a wide shot, like half a second for a close up, half a second for another close up. So we really had to think through what's going to be easily recognizable, you know, from a wide shot without telling the story. What are somebody going to think and feel, and how can we communicate that with the build? Because the details, even though they're super important, they're not going to be the first impression. They got to be that like follow-up piece. Whatever the movement was or the challenge was, like this last week when we had the puppet, we were like, okay, how are we going to make a mouth move? I mean, we were both really stumped with that at first. It was like, we have to figure this out first, or, you know, we're screwed. So like we have to start whatever's on the judge's checklist, but then going through like the big shapes first, and then seeing if we have time for as many details as we want, or maybe like some of the details. So sometimes that came together faster, sometimes that was slower. But yeah, there was definitely that trade and that balance between like size and detail. I mean, every time like you're getting ready to start something, you're kind of checking with the clock, like, okay, do I have time for this? Well,
obviously I'm going to have more Lego questions for you, but you're a singer and a songwriter, and we saw a little bit of that on the last episode. I even looked up some of your music before going on to this, and you have some serious talent. So what has inspired you while creating music?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's been kind of fun and silly to like do the Lego thing, and then have this opportunity to like bring in some fun music stuff. Whatever they said, like, hey, your puppet has to have a talent. We kind of looked like, what do we want our talent to be? I'm like, well, like I can sing. We got that in the like toolkit, like back pocket. Like, yeah, I guess our puppet could sing. And so we kind of went down that road. But yeah, I don't know. As far as like music stuff and what inspires me, I mean, I feel like that changes day to day. I love doing a deep dive on Spotify and finding new artists that I've never heard of, and you know, just getting inspired by what other people do. Like I love working on music and can do it by myself, but I definitely love the collaboration, creative aspect of working with other people and getting to feed off of their ideas and throwing something else, you know, in the fire and kind of seeing what like mixes up and comes out.
What advice would you give to someone who's just starting out in pursuing music?
I think I would just say, like, starting where you're at is always like, you know, sometimes it's like, you'll want to say like, oh, I've got these big dreams and it's like, I want to do this big thing. And like, but what I've got right now at my disposal is this. And it feels like, oh, I don't know that I want to start here because it's not like this big, perfect, polished thing. And I think sometimes just starting where you're at is super underestimated, because like starting where you're at with what you've got, and it might just be your iPhone and some app that you've downloaded, like do that and start with that, because other people are going to get excited about what you're doing and want to be part of it. And that can turn into another thing and another thing and another connection. And I know like when I was growing up, my dad would always remind me, like, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I used to kind of get discouraged by that, because I'm like, well, I don't know anybody, like, you know, I'm just a kid and whatever. And I don't think I really like got what he was saying until it's like, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So like start with where you're at and like working and collaborating with people, and like as a byproduct, you're going to make some great friends and have a lot of fun. But two, like, you don't know where that's going to lead and what connection that's going to make, and what, you know, friendship and connection that's going to make, and kind of how that just always kind of snowballs.
I agree completely. I mean, I look back at some of my old video stuff and it's horrible, but it's there, and I can see where I started and that I've improved along the way. And if I never did it and I kept going, when I get this, I'll start. When I get better at this, I'll start. But having that platform to start on, I think that's excellent advice for any career field. So we saw a teaser for what's to come next week, that the teams will be splitting up. What was my reaction? Was actual like jaw drop, because I was like, what is happening? And what was your reaction to that news?
Like, I screamed. Like, I don't know if the teams were there. I was like, wait a minute, what? Like, I panicked, you know, because so far, like in this thing, like, well, first off, when we started this, I was like, cool, we'll make it 1 week. Like, it's amazing that we got here. And I super believe in our creativity, but I also know that like there are people on here that have been doing this for years and years and years.
Commissioned by Nike, as you talked about.
Yeah. And yeah. Like there's some people, like, literally this is their 40-hour-a-week job, is building original creations for other clients. Like, there are a lot more experienced people here. So like when I talked with my clients, because I do like graphic video, songwriting stuff, when I talked with my clients and some of the people that I work with regularly, I'm like, I only need to take off, you know, 2 weeks, like 1 week to quarantine, 1 week to film, and we're going to get cut. We're the least experienced people here. This will be, you know, a really fun one challenge thing. And so like, to my surprise, like we made it through week 1, we made it through week 2, we made it. So each time I'm genuinely surprised, even though I'm like usually pretty excited and proud of what we've done, but I'm usually just surprised that I'm like, oh, we're still hanging in here. Okay. Now I got to go do this by myself. And I'm just thinking like, I don't want to let Michelle down. Like, this was her idea originally for us to apply to this thing together. And I'm like, I don't want to let her down and make something that she hates, you know, or is like not as good as whatever she's going to come up with. So I was definitely like, oh no, like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So yeah, it was definite like dread. And I guess, you know, you'll just have to tune in next week to see how it turns out.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone there would be like, oh, you're the reason we lost to their teammate. But I can see that feeling like that if you were like, we lost and the judges' critiques were all on my own build. They didn't say anything about yours. So like I could see how that could feel for one of the contestants. Hopefully that doesn't happen to anybody too harshly. Speaking of the future, are there any hints or teasers or anything you can share or tease at all for what we can expect to see coming up, without giving away any spoilers, of course, on Lego Masters?
Well, I would say if so far each week you've noticed that the challenges keep getting more and more intense and more challenging, I would say you can definitely keep expecting that.
Gotcha.
However long I am on this. You can keep expecting that every time that I will have a look of dread on my face and going, we have to do what?
Now this last bit I have for you are going to be my rapid fire question. Do you have a favorite Lego minifig?
Ooh, I really liked Intergalactic Girl because I felt like she was kind of like us. Like she's a busy on the go character that's like saving the planet as she goes. Like sometimes as a parent, that's how you feel. It's like I'm saving the planet one lunch packing at a time.
What is your favorite type of music?
I'm always drawn back to pop just because it's super digestible. Like we all love an easy, like catchy melody or hook or something. So I always get suckered back to pop, but I love like a good 70s rock vibe.
Do you have a least favorite type of music?
You know, I can say I've never listened to like yodeling on a car road trip or anything.
I don't think I have either. So. What a car ride.
Least favorite. Let me think about this. I
okay,
guess
yodeling.
Are you a genre? I mean, I don't know what it is.
Now someone's going to have to take a car trip across the U.S. with yodeling as their soundtrack. So
I've been on Spotify. I'm sure there's like a yodeling playlist. I'm sure there's a niche group. No,
yeah, you're probably right.
He loves yodeling. I'm so sorry.
Are you usually early or late?
So like my natural tendency is to lollygag a little bit and be like, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, like that's within the window. But I've really worked hard to like be an on-time person. My husband is a like early person. Like if something starts at 1 o'clock, he's going to be in the parking lot 30 minutes before.
That's me.
He's going to be inside like 15 minutes before. So marrying me, like he is just, lost his mind.
Come on.
Yeah. We end up being like the people that are like right on time or like 2 minutes early, unless it's just me. And then it's like everybody knows to be a little bit flexible with that 10-minute window. Do you think that's from your military background that you're like super early for things, or have you always been?
So I was early for things before that, but here's the caveat to that. My dad was military, so he was always early. So I think he instilled in me being younger, like if you're on time, you're late.
Yeah.
So it's like, you gotta be
all the time. And I'm like, let's just teach our kids that and hope that they don't pick up on my habit.
Do you have a favorite movie?
Okay, so some of my favorites, I don't know that I have like one favorite. Right. Some of my favorites, I love Gone with the Wind. Like as a kid, I was obsessed with that, which I look back at now and I'm like, that was a weird choice. Like there were a lot of things in that movie that I did not understand, but I was like, I just love this movie. A lot of the Steven Spielberg stuff. I love The Goonies. I love Indiana Jones. I love Back to the Future. Like any of those, I can watch those trilogies at any time and never be bored with them. Sometimes we'll just like keep those on loop or on repeat. When I was in 5th grade, me and some of my friends, we started our own Star Wars club because we became obsessed. So like I love Star Wars, but I love like 4, 5, and 6 is like my home. Like I love all the other ones, but like my home is 4, 5, and 6. Like those are my faves. And so like from 5th grade, we would always like pick a different friend's house to have like our sleepover at and pick which one of the movies we were watching. We were like super obsessed, and it was kind of before it like had come back and made like a splash and everybody knew it was like we were made fun of as the only girls that like loved Star Wars.
Do you have a favorite video game?
I still love the old school like Super Nintendo. We actually still have ours hooked up upstairs in the game.
Mine too. Still works.
I like a lot of video games, but like those ones are always my faves. Just probably for the simplicity. Like it's super linear. You start here, you end here. And I think probably for me, like I grew up playing video games with my dad, but the funnier part was that my grandma would play with us.
Wow.
And she got legit. Like before she passed, like we would, every time I'd go see grandma, and when I was younger, we lived by her. So I would, be over at her house a couple times a week. We would always play Super Mario. Grandma knew where all the warp worlds were, all of the extra coins. Like she could smoke me. She like, knew where all of the extra things were. Like
I remember the first video game I ever beat. Me, my dad, and my brother, Legend of Zelda on the Super Nintendo. I remember that was the first game we collectively, finally, there's no internet to look up cheats. You just got to figure it out.
The cheat books though?
Yes,
like
yes.
Oh my gosh, it was like gold. I'm like, where did you find this?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, do you have a favorite superhero?
100% Batman. When I was younger, I had this weird, like, I feel like now that you're asking, like, what was your favorite movie? What's your favorite this? I'm like, I was a weird child. Like, why did I have like these? Because like I loved Harrison Ford. Like as a kid, I had a super crush on Harrison Ford. That's kind of creepy. And then when I think about this, like Batman was always my favorite. And I love the animated series of Batman. Like I recently started rewatching that and have loved it just as much as an adult. Because like HBO Max now.
HBO Max, yeah.
So we've just been like rewatching them, and now my girls are like watching it with me, which is kind of fun.
To hear that, and then now you get to work on Lego Masters with the voice of Batman. So
that was super funny. Yeah,
yeah, that's great. If you had to pick one superpower, what would it be?
Probably teleporting. Like that would just, I mean, again, with being late, that would help me out. But then like, wouldn't it be legit to be able to like travel wherever you want?
Yeah.
Boom, like didn't need to even pack a bag, just snapped my fingers.
Because you can come back.
You know what? I forgot. I wanted a sandwich. Like snap, back at the beach with a sandwich. Like I feel like it would make life so much easier.
What would be your biggest pet peeve?
Probably like, okay, on a serious side, it's probably like lying. Like that is always my thing that it's like, oh, just be honest with me about it. Like I don't care what it is. Like I'll just take, you know, raw honesty, even if it's ugly. I'll take that any day over the like fake stuff. Like I love getting to chat with people and getting to like know people. Like tell me the real stuff. Like tell me your childhood obsessions, your trauma, your deep dark secrets, you know, versus like talking about the weather, which is probably strange too. But you know, I like honesty. So probably my pet peeve is whenever there's that like inauthenticity or like lying. But if we're gonna be light and
you can be as honest as you want. I'll scratch off my weather question. That was my next one, so I'll get rid of that. How do you like your steak cooked?
Ooh, I love a good medium well.
Really?
I actually didn't have a steak until I was in like 19. When my husband and I were dating, he was like, hey, do you want to come over? I'm going to grill some steaks. And I was like, I've actually never had steak. He's like, what? I ate meat before. I just had never really found meat that I liked. So I just thought that I didn't really like meat. Turns out I had just never had it. That was good. Really good. And he grew up in a barbecue family. They owned barbecue restaurants in Tulsa.
Oh my gosh.
So he grew up in the kitchen. So I jokingly say like he like fed his way to my heart, because he would always say like, hey, I'm going to cook this for dinner. Hey, I'm making this for lunch. Or hey, I'm going to go over to this place or this local spot for this. You want to come with me? And I was like, yeah, sure. But like, we were just friends. And I think he like suckered me in by feeding me. He was like, he just wore me down slowly. But he took me like my first brisket, my first steak. Like, I was like, okay. I was like, so I've learned to like more medium steak, but usually when I go out, I'll do like more medium well.
This goes perfectly to the next question. What is one food that you couldn't live without?
Mac and cheese for sure.
I'm with that. Yeah, mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese.
Now, if you could add one person, doesn't have to be a president, to Mount Rushmore, who would it be and why?
Okay, but in line with the like leaders, we could add Princess Leia in there. Like that would be legit. We could add.
I've had people say themselves when I've asked that one. They're like, me. Yeah, I don't think there'd be a lot of backlash for that one. I think more people would be on board with that.
I think we could get the whole world to unite on this.
Yeah, Princess Leia on Mount Rushmore. Everybody heard it here first.
We could find one thing in 2021. We could all stack hands on Princess Leia on Mount Rushmore.
What is the job you'd be terrible at?
Anything involving cooking. Like I know we were just talking about that. Like I can pretty much pick up anything after watching some YouTube videos and some tutorials. Like I can at least fake my way through things. Like I pick up stuff pretty fast. But man, I tell you what, I am a terrible cook. So anything involving cooking, like you do not want me to cook you dinner. Like when we have people over, my husband cooks the dinner. Like you don't want me cooking in a restaurant. I can make your plate look pretty and like decorate it with some confetti, but I am not going to be the one to cook food. Okay. I once messed up a crock pot meal. I was so excited. There was a period of time, like my husband normally cooks our meals. We kind of joke because he cooks like all of our meals and I like fix all of the stuff around our house. Like we just kind of have different things.
My wife's the handyman. I don't even try to lie. She does all the handiwork. I'm not that kind of person. And
I found this one recipe that I was like, hey, I could do this. This was good. And it was like some rosemary chicken with some green beans and potatoes in there. And I think maybe carrots or something. And I made it one time and the kids like approved. They were like, this is awesome. We love it. And I was like, sweet. So it was like on Saturday when dad gets home, I'm going to make this so that I can like, you know, put a little star on the domestic wife chart that I like did a thing, you know? And so I was so excited. I was like, hey, like, don't plan on eating out, I'm making dinner. I've got this awesome recipe. It's like so pumped. And I didn't realize whenever you dump chicken in a crock pot, you know how sometimes it's like iced over. I didn't realize to look in that like iced over spot for the like paper lining, that's underneath the chicken.
Right.
Cooking everything, but it wasn't cooking the meat because this like paper was around it. And I was like, I don't know, this is looking kind of funky. Like, I don't remember it looking like this. And then before it did, like a few minutes before we're gonna eat dinner, I was like, this is not looking right. So I'm like looking, I was like, there's a paper in here. I was like, all right, we're going out for pizza.
Do you have a favorite memory?
I don't know if it's necessarily like a favorite like single individual memory, but like something that always brings me joy when I think about it is my grandma's laugh. Like she had this really great belly laugh. And every once in a while I've noticed like now that I'm getting older that when I laugh, it'll sometimes sound like her and it'll just kind of make me smile. Like, I don't know if you've had somebody that's like a special person in your life. And like when you see something that reminds you of them, that it's like, just makes you smile, even though they're not like here anymore. It's like a little part of them still is because there's just that little bit of them. And so I don't know, when I think about my grandma's laugh, like I can hear it kind of like echoing and in my like head, like proverbially, is that a word, proverbially? I just kind of can hear it like echoing, and that always brings me joy. My kiddos and just the joy and craziness that they bring to my life, and probably just like laughing around the dinner table. I don't know, those are all so hallmarky and cheesy.
I like it.
Like of a memory that brings me joy, like it's gonna be family. Like families are messy and they're hard, but they're also like so worth it, Now,
what would be your biggest goal in life?
Man, is it too like virtual therapy to say like goal in life is just to find some happiness, like it's like just, whatever it is, if it's just like going to eat lunch with a friend, or if it's like learning how to build a new thing or learn a new skill or play a new like guitar riff or like whatever, it's just like learning something, being proud of yourself and like finding those moments in your life.
That's my last question for you. I'll have everything for you linked down in the description below, but what is next for you, Natalie?
What is next? I've been working on some new music, so I'm like super pumped to be able to share with everybody some new fun stuff. It's been a hot minute. We've had some, life change and health stuff and a lot of stuff that's kind of taken my time away from that. So I'm really excited to be back doing things that I love, that bring me joy. And so I'm excited to share that with people and hope that it makes them feel good too.